You are listening to Bedtime Dreamy Tales. Share and subscribe our channel. Story title: The Golden Key, Part 6. The next moment, Tangle noticed, in a corner of the cave, a small child sitting on the moss. He was playing with balls of various colors and sizes, arranging them in intricate patterns on the floor beside him. Tangle sensed there was a deep meaning in the changing shapes and colors of the balls, but she couldn't grasp what it was. The child continued his game, seemingly unaware of her presence. He moved the balls around with the precision of a lace maker, and occasionally flashes of understanding would come to Tangle, only to fade away. For what felt like 7 years, though it seemed like only 7 hours, Tangle stood watching the child, feeling an increasing sense of understanding awaken within her. Finally, the arrangement of the balls reminded her of the Valley of Shadows, and she spoke. "Where is the old man of the fire?" she asked. "Here I am," replied the child, standing up and leaving his balls on the moss. "What can I do for you?" Tangle was struck by the serene expression on the child's face, which radiated a profound sense of peace. Despite his serious demeanor, his eyes held a depth of kindness. "Are you the oldest man of all?" Tangle asked hesitantly. "Yes, I am very old. I can help you. I can help everyone," the child replied, moving closer and gazing up at her. Tangle began to cry. "Can you tell me the way to the country the shadows fall from?" she sobbed. "Yes, I know the way. But you cannot go my way. You are not old enough. I will show you another way." "Please don't send me back into the heat," Tangle pleaded. "I won't," the child assured her, placing a cool hand on her heart. "Now you can go. The fire won't harm you. Come." He led her from the cave, and through another archway, they emerged into a vast desert of sand and rock. The sky looked like solid thunderclouds, and the intense heat caused streams of molten gold, silver, and copper to flow from the rocks. However, the heat did not touch Tangle. After some time, the child turned over a large stone and took something resembling an egg from underneath it. He drew a curved line in the sand, placed the egg in it, and spoke words Tangle could not understand. The egg cracked and a small snake emerged, growing until it filled the line in the sand. The serpent then began to glide away. "Follow that serpent," the child instructed. "It will lead you the right way." Tangle followed the serpent, but kept glancing back at the remarkable child who stood alone in the desert beside a fountain of red flame. His pale skin glowed with a faint red tint in the intense heat. She continued to follow the serpent until the child was no longer visible. The serpent moved straight ahead without deviating. Meanwhile, Mossy had left the Lake of Shadows and reached the seashore on a stormy evening. The sun had set and the wind blew from the sea. Waves surrounded the rock where the old man's house was located. A majestic figure walked alone on the shore. Mossy approached him and asked, "Will you tell me where to find the old man of the sea?" "I am the old man of the sea," the figure responded. "I see a strong, regal man of middle age," Mossy replied. The old man looked at him more closely and said, "Your sight is better than most who come this way. The night is stormy. Come to my house and tell me how I can help you." Mossy followed him. The waves parted before the old man's steps, and Mossy walked on dry sand. When they reached the cave, they sat and looked at each other. By now, Mossy was an older man, looking much older than the old man of the sea, and his feet were weary. After a moment, the old man took Mossy's hand and led him to an inner cave, where he helped him into a bath. He noticed that Mossy kept one hand closed. "What are you holding?" he asked. Mossy opened his hand to reveal the golden key. "Ah," said the old man, "that explains why you recognize me, and I know the way you need to go." "I want to find the country where the shadows fall," Mossy said. "I understand. But first, do you know what that key is for?" the old man asked. "It must be for a keyhole somewhere, but I haven't found it." "I've lived a long time, I think," Mossy said sadly. "I might be old. I know my feet ache." "Do they?" the old man asked sincerely. Mossy watched his feet for a moment before replying. "No, they don't," he answered. Maybe I'm not old after all. Look at yourself in the water, the old man suggested. Mossy rose and saw his reflection in the water, noticing there were no grey hairs or wrinkles. "You have tasted death now," the old man said. "Is it good?" "It is good," Mossy replied. "It is better than life." "No," said the old man. "It is just more life. Your feet won't leave marks in the water now." "What do you mean?" Mossy asked. "I will show you soon," the old man replied. They returned to the outer cave and talked for a long time. Eventually, the old man of the sea stood up and said, "Follow me." If you like this story, please give this video a like. For more stories, go to bedtimedreamytales.com. See you in the next story.